So let's talk a little more about Excel functions. So Excel functions, like I said earlier, are predefined calculations. They are formulas that performs a certain calculation. If you want to perform a calculation in Excel, then you insert a certain function, an Excel function which is predefined and that performs a certain calculation, right? So as per 2013 version, there are approximately 461 Excel functions inbuilt in your software. So this is as of 2013. I'm sure you have other functions also, I think, as per the latest version. So just check that out. So your commonly used functions are like, जैसे आपको total calculate करनी है, so total के लिए you use sum, for minimum, maximum, average. These are very simple and very basic functions, right? So like I said in the earlier classes, you have three parts to the function. One is the equal to, then the actual function, the function name, whether it is sum, or for average it is average, for minimum it is min, for maximum it is max, for count it is count, and for standard deviation it is STDEV. We will talk about all of this in the next few classes. So to insert a particular function, so let's say we'll just do some basic calculations over here. Okay? So to calculate the total, let's say instead of using these cell references as like direct formulas, you can insert functions like equal to, sum, that gives my three parts of my function. The first one is equal to, second is the sum function. If you could see, जैसे आपने function insert किया, Excel is telling you what next should follow. यहाँ पे आपको number 1 डालना है, फिर comma डाल के number 2. So comma basically separates your entries and a colon actually gives a range. For example, I can write it like this also, sum of this cell, comma, this cell, comma, this cell, and close my bracket. I can also do it this way. I can simply select these ranges. I can select this range. So a colon is used to indicate ranges, a particular range. From this cell to this cell you have to calculate, or you have to perform this function, or you can separate the entries using a comma. I just close my parenthesis, click on enter. You can either drag the formula, or you can use control plus D. Similarly over here also we are calculating the total. So I can use the same formula over here and apply this range over here. Close, enter, control R, because you're moving the formula towards the right side. If I want to calculate the minimum number, I use the min function. I select the range. What is the minimum amount that I am spending in Jan, for what category I am spending, if I want to find out that. So it's 150. I just drag it over here, control R, and then for max, similarly equal to max, open bracket, I just select my range and then I move it, control R. For average, I write the entire. अब देखो, हाउ डू आई नो दैट एवरेज के लिए ए बी जी नहीं, एवरेज पूरा लिखना है. सो इफ यू डोंट नो व्हाट फंक्शन यू हैव टू इंसर्ट, यू ऑलवेज हैव टू ऑप्शंस. वन इज इन द फॉर्मूला बार, जो एफ एक्स है ये आप क्लिक कर सकते हो. अदरवाइज जस्ट गो टू योर फॉर्मूला टैब्स in the ribbon and click on something called insert function. If you, this is one way, either through this or through this. If you don't know, if you know that which category this formula belongs to, जैसे for example average is also called mean, right? Mean is a statistical function, so you can find out where statistical functions are here, statistical functions, and you can find average, right? So it is based on whether you know what category this function belongs to. If you know the category, from the function library in your formulas tab you can insert the function. If you don't know what category, then you can insert it using insert function. So यहाँ पे आप बता रहे हो आपको करना क्या है. I want to find out the average. ठीक है. So I'm just going to give it a go. If I don't know the category, let me just keep it as all. I'll just give it a go. I found my average function here and clicking on OK. right? जैसे I click on OK, a dialog box appears calling it's called function arguments. So it is asking average आपको कौन कौन सी numbers के लिए find out करना है. So यहाँ पे भी आप number 1 number 2 करके लिख सकते हो. Let's write it using number 1 number 2. So पहला number होगा ये, ठीक है, I'm just selecting it. दूसरा number होगा मेरा this one, right? तीसरा number होगा credit cards. So I can do it this way, or I can simply insert a particular range. I'll just click on OK. From B5 to B9. So I can insert a range and click on OK. So this is my average for Jan. So I can just drag it, Control R. I'll get my average for all 3 months. And for my total also. ठीक है? Count is simply used to find out कितनी numeric entries है. Again, count we will do it later, but just for the sake of understanding the concept of functions, I'm just trying to explain over here. कितनी entries आपकी data में numeric entries है. This ignores your blank cells. This function ignores your text cells. ठीक है? It just considers your numeric entries. So if I'm saying equal to count and I'm giving this range, I'm getting 5 entries: rent, car, credit cards, food, and phone. If I'm going to change this to a text entry, so my count is still 4, right? My count is 4 because this is a text and count function just calculates numeric entries. I'll just undo that. So again, you select Control R, or you just drag it using the plus symbol. So this is how you enter functions. If you know the function, you can just straight away write it equal to this function, and then you can give the range or the number. Otherwise you can use this formula bar के बगल में जो insert function है, नहीं तो you can go to your formula bars, formula tab in the ribbon, and you can insert the function from there. Or if you know the category to which this function belongs to, you can select it from any particular category. It can be logical, mathematical, financial, statistical, it can be a reference function, anything. We will talk about all of this in detail. So this is the basis on how you insert certain functions. And also please keep in mind your functions should always, your arguments should always be in brackets, in parentheses. If you don't apply parentheses properly, if you could see here, parentheses आप ढंग से नहीं लगा रहे हो, तो your outcome will be, your result will be in some kind of an error will happen. ठीक है? So comma, colon, parentheses are also very important when you are talking about inserting functions or using Excel functions for that matter, right? So before moving further deeply into Excel functions, let's observe something. If you could see, your cells have something over here in the top left, a small green colored triangle, right? So this actually is an error, and this error can be ignored. It is not a what to say blunder और आपकी output गलत आया है, ये नहीं है. इसमें Excel आपको एक indication दे रहा है. This error is called adjacent cells error. Adjacent cells error means जो आपकी adjacent cells है उसकी वजह से जो error create हो रही है, that is adjacent cells error. So for example, when I am calculating the sum of the first 5 entries over here, what happens is the date entry is also considered as a numeric entry, right? So Excel is saying कहीं आप गलत तो नहीं कर रहे हो by leaving this particular entry, and also by leaving the other cells around you. So adjacent cells error are typically because of the cells that are next to you. Excel is just giving you an indication and asking you whether you are not omitting the adjacent cells wherein you must be using it. ठीक है, जैसे यहाँ पे आप डेट छोड़ के गलती तो नहीं कर रहे हो. It is asking such kind of questions. ठीक है, so you can either, so if you could just click on this particular icon symbol that is जैसे explanation mark that is appearing here. If you could just click on it, you have options. You can either omit, it says formula is omitting the adjacent cell, so you can update the formula. अगर सही में आपने कुछ cells छोड़ दिया है तो आप उसको include कर सकते हो. You can find more help on this error. You can ignore it. You can edit it in the formula bar, which is this, or you can check for any error. What you can check into the details. ठीक है? Ideally आपको ignore करना चाहिए if there is no problem. You can anyway go and check whether you have actually omitted certain cells or not. I am just ignoring because my formula is right according to me. ठीक है? Speaking of functions and speaking of the things that you're including in your functions, जैसे आपकी colon, comma और brackets, you have to also think about certain things. जैसे यहाँ पे इस वाली sheet में order of operations वाली sheet में this is a bill and I have to calculate certain things in the bill. So the first thing is I calculate a total. So total के लिए तो it is simple equal to sum. I open my parenthesis. I select the range, close my parenthesis and click on enter, right? The next thing I have to calculate is after tax. After tax मेरा total कितना आ रहा है? So this is a bill. So ideally I just multiply it by 1 plus 1. It is like this total multiplied by whatever is my percentage into 1 by 100, right? सॉरी 1 + r/100 ये आएगा तो जो compound interest वाली formula है वैसे आएगा. So when you do that, it is I select this particular thing, this the tax percentage plus 1, right? Now this is not the right answer. I know this is not the right answer. इतना कम सब टोटल तो इतना कम टोटल तो नहीं आ सकती. What am I doing wrong? So to find out whether your formula is right or wrong, to find out whether you Excel is following the steps properly, is it executing the steps properly, you have something called evaluate formula. In your formulas tab in the ribbon, you have a group called formula auditing. Just go to evaluate formula. यहाँ पे आपको स्टेप बाय स्टेप सब्स्टिट्यूशंस और कैलकुलेशंस दिखेगा. जैसे C6, just click on evaluate, it is inserted 305. C7 is my 8%, it is right. If I click on another evaluate, it is first multiplying 305 with 8%, which I don't want. I want to first add it to 1 and then multiply it, right? So this is where I am making the mistake. I forgot my parenthesis. So Excel always follows the rule of BODMAS. So it is first brackets, orders, division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. So it is necessary that we insert the right parenthesis at the right place so that our calculations are not wrong. Now I got my right answer. If I go and evaluate formula again and just evaluate it step by step, you will know that 8% plus 1 is being calculated first and then it has been evaluated, right? So that is how you check whether your formulas are right or wrong, and you always be sure of inserting the right parenthesis at the right place. So you also have other shortcuts to calculate the total. If I want to calculate the total of all these 6 entries, I can go to my home tab and you can see something at the extreme end. Editing wale column mein you have something called auto sum. You also have the same thing in your formulas tab, also auto sum. Now this auto sum, if you click on it, you will get the total. ठीक है, आप इसमें range दे सकते हो and just click on enter. You can also do one more thing. Not necessarily this auto sum function calculates the sum, it also calculates the average. It counts the numbers maximum and minimum and also some more functions. So जो आपकी commonly used functions है वो ऐसे auto sum करके use कर सकते हो. For example, commonly used in the sense, say in all your Excel sheets, you are calculating a percentage of something, percentage of sales or percentage of revenue, expenditure, anything. So if you're calculating percentage regularly, you can insert a formula for that. Or else, of course, percentage के लिए यहाँ पे there is no function. But if you are inserting a percentile or if you are giving certain conditions, you can always use auto sum key options, right? So this is one thing. The other keyboard shortcut is Alt plus equal to. Just click on Alt plus equal to in your just a second. Alt plus equal to in your keyboard, you will just get your sum. It's not working in mine, but the keyboard shortcut for sum is Alt plus equal to. So wherever you want to insert sum, just press Alt equal to, you will get the sum of the cells above that particular cell. जैसे यहाँ पर अगर मेरे को sum चाहिए, इस cell के ऊपर जितने भी numeric values है उसकी sum मिलेगा हमको, ठीक है? So that is auto sum. Autofill is to copy the formulas. Auto sum is to just calculate very easily, shortcut to calculate. ठीक है? There are certain shortcuts in Excel for moving and copying data as well. For example, if I want to move this particular data somewhere, I select it, and when I come to this particular point, जैसे आपकी pictures में move करने के लिए जो arrow आती है ना, you can just move it to some other place. Just drag it and move it. ठीक है? You can just drag it from one place and you can move it. The other thing is, of course, you can use Control X and Control V. Cut, copy, paste कर सकते हो एक new location में. Copy paste कर सकते हो in another location, in another sheet. You can place it, you can copy it in another sheet. You can just keep it in the same sheet also in some other position, right? So that is just moving and copying data. To move you can just drag, and to copy you can select and Control C Control V कर सकते हो. Let's next discuss few little things, basic things in Excel. How to insert and delete rows and columns. So to insert any row or column, you can just say, for example, I want to insert a row towards the left side of G column. Just select G and click on Control plus. ठीक है? तो Control plus click करने से एक column insert हो जाती है. If I want to insert a row, can select that row and Control plus करोगे तो एक column insert हो जाती है. It gets inserted above in case of rows, and in case of columns it gets inserted towards the left. ठीक है? If you want to delete that row, again Control minus, and if you want to delete a column, again Control minus, right? So to add or delete, insert or delete columns or rows, it is Control plus and Control minus respectively. Now sometimes in your laptops you might not have the number pad. If you don't have the number pad, and if you're using the plus sign next to the backspace key, then you have to use Control Shift plus. Similarly, Control Shift minus. ठीक है? If you have the number pad and you're using the number pad minus and plus signs, then it is just Control plus and Control minus. If it is the one that you're using next to the backspace key, towards the left of the backspace key, then it is Control Shift plus and Control Shift minus. So that is inserting and deleting rows. How about changing the size of the cells? If you want to change the width and the size of the cells, sometimes what happens is when your cell size is very small and you're performing some calculation, most of the time ऐसे ही आपको दिखेगा. You get hashtags in your cells. That doesn't mean there is an error. It is a very common assumption that students think that error आ गया output में. It is not an error. It just says that there is insufficient space in your cell. So to avoid this, you can just drag this. If you could move your cursor between these columns, you can just drag this and change the size of the cell. You can make your cell a little bigger. If it is small, you will get hashtags. It means that there isn't sufficient space for the cell contents in the cell. It doesn't mean there is an error. So you can just drag it towards the left and towards the right and increase the size. Similarly, row के लिए भी आप space बढ़ा सकते हो by just dragging it, right? So this is one method. Another method is you can just double click on the icon and auto fit to contents. जैसे मान लो this is a particular column and I think it is appearing a little bigger than it should be. So if I want to reduce this, if I want to auto fit to the contents, I just move my cursor here and I just double click it. I move my cursor in between the two columns and I just double click it. It becomes auto fit to contents. Contents के हिसाब से मेरा जो cell है, cell size वो reduce हो जाती है, वो fit हो जाती है. Similarly for row also, I just move my cursor and double click it. ठीक है? I keep my cursor in between the rows or in between columns and I double click it. It gets auto fit to the contents of my cell. So if your data consists of say some confidential items, confidential data included है, and you want to hide it or you want to protect it by not showing it to your audience. For example, your attendance record. Okay, I have an entire sheet including your daily attendance, total, ECA, medical. I have the entire status, and at the last column I have your total percentage. ठीक है, say for example this is your attendance percentage. Now I don't want you people to see all these three columns. Actually ये अगर ये select करने से the first row is also, first column is also getting selected because these two are merged cells. I'll just delete this cell and unmerge it, and I'll just unmerge it. ठीक है, so I don't want you people to see these four columns at all. I just want to show the final percentage to my students. In that case I want to hide it. ठीक है, if I want to hide it and so that you don't see it, one thing is I can just right click and click on hide or unhide. ठीक है, if I am hiding it, you can see यहाँ पे एक cluster जैसा है. So there not, Excel has done nothing but just moved the size of these particular cells, these particular columns. ठीक है, if you're just moving this column over here इतना closely, it gets hidden, है ना, it gets hidden. But although if I'm going to send this particular sheet to you, you can easily find out ना एक column hidden है because E के बाद G आ रहा है, so you will know that there is one column hidden and you can open this like this. So if I want to protect people from doing this also, what I can do, one thing I can do is I can go to my view tab. I'll just hide this first. I can go to my view tab and there is something called headings over here, show wali section mein. So if I just click it, deselect it, my headings are not visible. So if my headings are not visible, how will you know ये कौन सी column है ना? Of course the cluster is here. I should have moved it a little more towards the left. But other than that, you will not know. Of course, smart people will know because of the cell references. This is G2 and this is E2. But otherwise, there is not much possibility that people will know that there are certain hidden cells in my worksheet. So this is one way. The other thing is I can protect the entire sheet with a password. I can go to my review tab and there is something called protect sheet. So I can just give a password and protect my sheet so that people don't see the hidden cells, hidden rows or columns. So I'm basically protecting a certain confidential data so that my viewers don't see it. If I'm especially working in a management or working with students and I don't want them to see certain data, in that case I can do this, right? So this is hiding or unhiding rows and columns. Not only for not only for columns, you can also do it for rows. You can just bring it closer and it gets hidden, right? यहाँ पे देखो बहुत perfectly hid हुआ है, hide हुआ है, sorry. See, you can just see it in the header over here. बाकी कोई भी column के बीच में you will not be able to differentiate the difference at all. ठीक है? So you can also select a particular column, right click and hide or unhide. The column width just gets shortened, or you can also drag it and unhide it. ठीक है? I'm repeating the hashtags again appear because of insufficient cell space. It doesn't mean that there is an error in the formula or in your calculations. ठीक है? The next thing that we are going to see is how to rename your worksheet. Renaming or moving or deleting your worksheet. You can simply double click. नीचे देखो आप status bar के पास. You can simply double click and rename the worksheet. ठीक है? Or you can click on it, right click on it and rename it. Right? You can move it or copy. Move मतलब you are moving it to. When you click on move or copy, you can either मूव इट टू दिस वर्कबुक इटसेल्फ. दिस वर्कबुक मतलब यहाँ पे आप आखिरी में मूव कर सकते हो या इन बिटवीन ऑफ दीज शीट्स मूव कर सकते हो. जैसे इफ आई वांटेड आफ्टर ऑर्डर ऑफ ऑप्शंस, सॉरी ऑपरेशंस, और बिफोर, यहाँ पे बिफोर शीट है ना. इफ आई वांटेड बिफोर माय मंथली बजट टेम्पलेट, सो आई सिलेक्ट दिस एंड क्लिक ऑन ओके. आई कैन क्रिएट अ कॉपी. क्रिएट अ कॉपी मतलब दो शीट्स आएंगे. एक तो माई सम विल ऑलरेडी बी देयर, the other one sum 1 करके एक और sheet copy होगा. So it is a copy, or I can just move it from that location to this location, right? This is inside the workbook. You can move it or copy it. You can also do it in a new book. एक new workbook create करके आप सेव कर सकते हो. यू कैन मूव इट और कॉपी इट इन अ न्यू वर्कबुक ऑल्सो. यू कैन सिंपली ड्रैग इट ऑल्सो. इसको ड्रैग करके यहाँ लेके आ सकते हो. ठीक है. यू कैन सिंपली ड्रैग द शीट एंड मूव इट और कॉपी इट. राइट. अगेन टू copy तो you have to click on right click. If you right click there is an option called delete. ठीक है. Now when you're deleting a worksheet you have to be very careful because you will not get this sheet again. Say for example there is something called sheet 1. If I'm clicking on sheet 1 and deleting it, Excel is giving me a message. Okay, it was not, उसमें कोई यूज ही नहीं था, उसमें कोई कैलकुलेशन नहीं था, इसीलिए वो इमीडिएटली डिलीट हो गया. बट इफ आई एम क्लिकिंग ऑन दिस शीट एंड क्लिकिंग delete, there is a message that comes that you will not, this will be permanently deleted and you will never find this sheet. You want to continue, if you click continue, sorry, if you click on delete, there is no undo button for this, not even control Z. It will get permanently deleted. So you have to be very careful when you are deleting a particular sheet. What you can do is you can create a copy and then delete if you want to, just to play safe, right? एंड ऑल्सो अगर आपके पास शीट 1 शीट 2 शीट 3 है और शीट 2 आप डिलीट कर रहे हो, शीट 2 विल नेवर अपीयर अगेन इन योर वर्कशीट. व्हेन यू आर इंसर्टिंग न्यू शीट्स, शीट 4 5 6 आ सकती है नीचे, लेकिन शीट 2 कभी नहीं आएगा इस वर्कबुक में. तो इस वर्कबुक में शीट 2 का काम खत्म है, राइट? सो इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू केयरफुली हैंडल दिस डिलीट ऑप्शन. So let's talk about formatting your data in the Excel worksheet. So formatting is simply like how you formatted things in Word or PowerPoint. So it's going to be quite similar only. Just go to your home tab. Home tab mein, so basically why do you try to format an Excel sheet? Because Excel mein everything is about data, numbers, calculations, formula, functions, etc. But why are we trying to format this kind of a data is because your document becomes more presentable. You can easily differentiate between things like whether a certain, for example, if your percentage, attendance percentage, if I'm formatting the data in a certain way, I can easily categorize students who are below average or below 65% or below 60% or who have never come to my classes. So I can easily categorize them if my data is formatted and it is color coded and it's presented in a nice manner. Also, if you are, say for example, I am giving a particular color code for wherever I am applying certain formulas. Say if I'm applying formulas over here and I'm going to give it a blue color background for this particular cell. So if there is an error in my document, in my, sorry, not document, in my worksheet, I will exactly know where this error is occurring and because of which formula, which cell. So it's very easy to differentiate and it is very presentable also. Okay. So the font group over here, clipboard is same, font is also very similar to whatever we've seen in Word and PowerPoint. The only thing is यहाँ पे word में it worked for every word, every letter. यहाँ पे it is for every cell. So whatever font options you have over here, if it is a font style, size, bold, underline, or even background color, it is for a particular cell. So wherever your cursor is and if you're applying a certain change, this would be applicable for this entire cell. You can apply cell borders. जो आपकी यहाँ पे lines दिख रही है, these are not borders, these are just grid lines. ठीक है, grid lines means it just differentiates between one cell and the other cell, differentiates between rows and columns. This table over here, these are the borders inserted. ठीक है, it actually gives some effect or some look to your presentation. It makes your worksheet presentable. ठीक है. So you can fill colors inside cells. You can change the text color. If I'm going to click my cell and click on the text color, it becomes a red color. You can change the colors. You can add border to cells. You can add thick borders to separate the total from the data. You can add thick borders to separate percentage from the data for these cells I'm talking about. The other formatting options you have is the number. यहाँ पे you can change to currency values. If I'm clicking my cursor here and if I'm clicking on currency, if I'm clicking on currency, my rupee symbol gets inserted. So if I want to insert rupee in my data sheet, in my bills data sheet, I can just go to my number group and change the currency format. Sorry, change the format to currency. You can also change it to number, you can change it to percentage. If it is a percentage, you can increase the decimal places or decrease the decimal places. Right? These are options in the number column. In the alignment tab, everything is similar except for something called wrap text. Wrap text is this is my cell and my text is exceeding the cell size. I can wrap it up inside that cell itself. That is text. You're just wrapping the contents inside the cell itself. So you can create certain formats, you can change certain settings so that your sheet is consistent throughout, so to use such thing, to just to create a consistency approach or consistency look through for your worksheet, you apply these formatting styles. So we saw wrap text. You can also merge two cells together. So if I'm just unwrapping it, I can just select these two cells and I can merge it and keep it in center. You have to keep in mind you cannot merge two cells that has contents in both the cells. You say, for example, if I'm trying to merge rent and car, these two cells, only the Excel is giving me a message that only the upper left value would be considered, the rest will be discarded. If I just click OK, only rent will appear. So you cannot merge two cells filled with content. Only one cell has to have content and the other cell should be an empty cell. Only then you can merge it, and then you can keep it in center, or you can just merge it or unmerge it. The next thing over here in the home tab is something called styles. So over here, if you click the drop down, you can actually see cell styles. So if you want to format a particular style, say for example, I want to keep this as headings. So I can actually go over here and change this particular cell style. The next to styles option, you have something called insert, delete and format. This is actually जो हमने inserting cells, rows उसके बारे में बात कर रहे थे. It is the same thing. यहाँ पे you can insert one particular cell also. If I'm just going to click on insert, it is asking me you want to insert a cell or a row or a column or an entire sheet. So I can, for rows and columns it was control plus and control minus, but for inserting cells you can just click on this. Okay, so you can just shift the cells down. So I can insert a particular cell, I can also delete it, or I can also format cells. How can I format? I can change the cell size, or I can just auto fit to with respective to the contents. I can change the column width, or I can also keep it auto fit, and it can be any default thing, hide or unhide, renames, all your options that we did so far, everything is over here, including protection, right? So insert, delete, format works for cells as well as for rows and columns. There is something in the styles block that is called conditional formatting. So conditional formatting, as the name suggests, you give some conditions based on which your formatting changes. For example, if in मार्च की जो बजट है इसमें मैं ये देखना चाहती हूँ, आई एम गोइंग टू गिव सम रूल्स, ठीक है. वॉट एवर इज ग्रेटर देन 1000, आई जस्ट वॉन्ट इट टू बी हाईलाइटेड, सो आई जस्ट गिव दिस रूल. ग्रेटर देन, एक्चुअली 1384 यहाँ पे एवरेज बता रहे हैं, सो आई जस्ट से 1000, ठीक है. So I want to know where my expenditure is more. My expenditure is more in rent. This I've selected total also, but ideally you don't select total. So conditional formatting mein you are giving some condition and your table formatting changes. You can give some color background or text color for this. So it can be a greater than value, less than value. You can give a range from this number to that number. If it is equal to some number, it can also be a text. If say I'm having certain text items, let's say certain names. If I'm having certain text names, I'm just selecting it and I'm giving some highlighting rule. I'm saying that if my text is containing Disha, highlight it, or if my text is containing, sorry, if my cell is containing the text this, then you highlight it, otherwise don't. ठीक है, और highlight color change कर सकती हूँ. So यहाँ पे I can manage my rules, I can change my rules, or I can clear my rules from the entire sheet or from the from the selected cells or from the entire sheet as well. So it is not only based on greater than lesser than value, it can also be for date. Duplicate values highlight कर सकती हो. This is very important when you're working with large data. When your Excel sheet is completely filled with heavy data and you want to find out if there are any duplications, then you can use this to highlight those cells that have been duplicated. Top bottom rules is your top 10 values or based on a certain average. If it is above this average or below the average, percentage की basis में bottom 10. So based on these rules also, you can change your highlighting. Data bars is simply, say for example, if I'm applying data bars over here on numbers, you will just get color coded forms of, the more data gets more shading. कम data पे बहुत कम shading आती है. ठीक है, so that is data bars. Color scales is, again, you have three different colors: red, green and yellow. So based on your amount that you've been spending, a color code appears. Icon sets is, instead of colors you're using icons, right? So jitna for red, green and yellow would appear for different values based on your data, right? So that is conditional formatting. To make your data look better, to analyze your data better, you use conditional formatting. It makes a much clear sense of how you are interpreting the data. If I want to do some analysis on this particular thing, or say for example, if I have your attendance record and I want to get an analysis of कौन सी बच्चे regularly आए हैं, who are the students who are very irregular or who has never come to my class. In that case, I can use data bars or icon sets to get some clear interpretation without doing any calculations. I don't have to necessarily perform any function and find out how my students have been regular in my classes. So we have almost completed the home tab. ठीक है, आपके बस end में there is sort and filter, but sort and filter I will teach you through data tab only. ठीक है, so home tab is over, it's final. File tab is over. Let's move to the next insert tab. ठीक है, so insert tab in Excel is only important because you add some visual content to your worksheet just to make it look a little bit, clear and appealing. It's Yes. So यहाँ पे there are two new things. One is your pivot tables and the other thing is called slicer. Of course, slicer option will not be available in the पुराने versions. 2003 2007 में slicer option नहीं होगा. In the latest versions only you have slicer, but the other than these two options, everything is what you've been working with in Word and PowerPoint, right? So over here I'll just remove these conditional formatting things and then we can clearly understand how to insert charts. ठीक है, so how to create basic charts. Say for example, I want to create a chart for this particular data that I have, my bills from Jan to March for different categories. So the first thing I would do is I would select my data, go to insert tab. Let's say for now I'm inserting a bar graph, a 2D bar graph. ठीक है, so I got my graph. Again, the things like I just can't move it. Things like your chart title, the legend, you can just add chart elements by yourself. This I taught you when we were doing Word itself. So यहाँ पे I'm not going to get into how to insert chart items and all that. You can do it by yourself because I've already covered it in Microsoft Word. ठीक है? So यहाँ पे your table has been represented graphically. Over here, if you could observe, इफ यू मूव टू द डेटा, ठीक है, चार्ट पे सिलेक्ट करके फिर डेटा पे जाओगे तो एक कलर्ड कोडेड आइटम्स दिख रहे हैं आपको. दिस नंबर्स आर अपियरिंग इन ब्लू कलर बॉक्सेस, दिस इज इन रेड कलर and this is in purple color. So what if I just move this, my cursor, if I'm just moving this till Feb, my chart gets updated automatically. I can see the data only for Jan and Feb. Let's say I don't want to see phone की data. ठीक है, so phone का remove हो जाती है. I can see only rent, car, credit cards and food. So if you just move here in your data table, your chart gets updated automatically. ठीक है? So to modify any data, to modify anything that is there in the data, you can just drag these lines, these color coded lines, and change your chart elements accordingly. Or you can change your chart automatically. ठीक है? So you can move your chart to another worksheet. ठीक है? If you could see in the design tab, there is this option of move chart. You can either move it uh, in any other sheet, or you can create a new sheet itself. If you're just moving it in any other sheet, it will appear as the same. जैसे इस sheet में दिख रही है, दूसरी sheet में ऐसे ही दिखेगा. Let's see how it is visible in another new sheet. So if I'm clicking on new sheet, इसी workbook में, in this work itself, a new sheet will be created. My Excel is not responding. Let's just wait for a minute. So a new sheet will be created under the name chart 1, and your chart will be inserted in that particular new sheet. Like this. Right? There is no grid lines, no cells, no headers, row headers, column headers, nothing. Your chart has been inserted. Okay, I'll just undo this. Undo nahi ho raha hai. So I can just move it back to that location. Okay? Oh, I moved it in the wrong location. So okay, my chart is back over here. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, instead of modifying any data, I'm just going to change the chart type. Okay, my selection is here, and I'm just going to insert a pie chart over here. Let's see what happens if I insert a pie chart, a 2D pie chart. If I'm inserting a 2D pie chart, for all the 3 months मेरे को सिर्फ rent की दिख रही है. Where are the car, credit card, food and phone bills? I'm not seeing that. So pie chart always works with either one column and different categories, या फिर just one category for 3 months. ठीक है? So it does not work for multiple rows and multiple columns. Either आपको multiple rows and one column होनी चाहिए, और इज multiple column, multiple column and one row होनी चाहिए. ठीक है? So let me just modify this and I'll say मेरे को सिर्फ Jan की चाहिए. ठीक है? अभी भी मेरा डेटा कुछ एडिट नहीं हुआ. It is still showing rent, but now तो my data is clear, right? So for this, what you can do is go to your design tab and click on switch row or column. If you click on switch row or column, your chart gets updated automatically, right? This is how you insert a pie chart. A pie chart is only for one type of entry. It is either one single column, single rows, right? So it is either single column and multiple rows, or multiple columns and single rows, right? So this is how you insert a pie chart. This switch row or column will simply just convert your rows into columns and columns into rows. ठीक है? So that is inserting charts. So our insert tab is also done almost, except for pivot tables and slicer, which we will be doing in the next week. Before we move to page layout, I want to just bring into your notice this sheet, monthly budget template. So if you are someone who creates budgets every month or every year, and you want to have a certain template with certain formulas already inserted. सी फॉर एग्जाम्पल इस सेल में फॉर्मूला ऑलरेडी इंसर्टेड है. सो जैसे आप एंट्रीज करोगे, अपने आप आपके आंसर आ जाती है. सो इफ इन दैट केसेस यू वांट टू जस्ट save this particular sheet as a template, you can also save it in that way. So you just have to go to file, save as, and when you are giving a particular name to your Excel sheet, say for example, when this box opens up, यहाँ पे instead of an Excel workbook, you will click as Excel template. That is how you save it, right? So you can just go to save as and create your own template. You can create your own template, go to save as and save it as a template, right? So this is just for you to know, so that you can use it, as a template for future use, as a record you can keep it. ठीक है? So insert tab के बाद page layout है. Before I go to page layout, for page layout I want to show you a different Excel worksheet. So before page layout, let me go to view tab. ठीक है? व्यू में जो हमारे पास 4 वर्कबुक व्यूज है, दिस इज द ओनली न्यू थिंग in view tab. Everything else is similar to your word or your PowerPoint view tab. So the normal thing is what you are seeing. Normal is the default layout, default view, and you are just seeing the screen. Page break preview में when you print this particular worksheet, ठीक है, और your content के हिसाब से this entire workbook will get splitted. You can just see this particular content. So basically जब आप print करते हो, this area is what you would be printing. Or let's go to monthly budget and click on page break view. It will actually break the entire worksheet into the only the content that is there in the worksheet. ठीक है, so आपको जो extra things है वो नहीं दिखेगा. You will just see your content. ठीक है, the entire page gets broken. The other thing is page layout. If you are printing this particular worksheet as a document, कैसे दिखेगा? That is your page layout. Your worksheet gets converted into a document. It just gives you a view like a word document. यहाँ पे आप header footer भी insert कर सकते हो. If you could see, you can insert header footers in this particular view, right? After activating page layout only you can enter header footer in an Excel sheet. Otherwise you cannot, right? कस्टम व्यूज में आप अपने कस्टमाइजेशन दे सकते हो. व्हाट काइंड ऑफ व्यू you want to see, you can just add it. Say for example you want to view a particular sheet in a particular way, you can customize it on your own. I'm just going back to my normal view. I also forgot to mention that whenever you are saving an Excel sheet as a template, you can find it under the personal section. So when you're going back to the backstage view by clicking your file tab, you can actually see यहाँ पे जो recent और pinned है, यहाँ पे एक personal section भी आएगा. You can just find it there. Otherwise you can go to more templates, and in the personal section you can see the templates that you have created, right? So that is that your own template will appear in your personal column. So that is it with the basics of this particular worksheet. I will show further things in another worksheet that is already there in the classroom, Excel 102 exercises, right?